Hey everybody, I'm Jonathan, and this is Geek of All Trades, where we specialize in DIY costumes and prop builds. If you like what you see on this channel, won't you be so kind as to smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, leave a thumbs up like, and a positive comment below. Today we're going to show you how to make the classic Batgirl costume. We decided to go with the Batman animated series Batgirl costume. We got a compression shirt and pants from Amazon.com for the base of the suit. We're going to show you how to make the cowl, the bat emblem, the cape we got at Amazon.com. We'll leave the links in the description below. We'll show you how to make the spikes and the gloves. The gloves we got on Amazon.com. We'll show you how to make the belt. And the boots we got on Amazon.com. Okay, so I started out with my templates. I used my styrofoam mannequin head and put some Super 77 adhesive on it. Then coated it with a whole bunch of grocery bags. Then lined that with duct tape. Then I used some cardstock to make the pointed ear section. And then clamshelled it. I put another piece of cardstock folded on the other side to make that whole ear assembly. And then covered that in duct tape. And then once I had everything there, I used a silver Sharpie marker to just kind of draw in all of my cut lines, where the eye holes were going to be, where the mask section and the jawline were going to be. And then just lined that up, and then took my utility knife and then made all of those cuts. And I'm going to be using each one of these as my templates for all of my foam components to make the Batgirl cowl. Just cutting along the eye line here, the eye holes for it, getting that taken care of, and peeling everything away. It comes off pretty clean. Next, I hit the templates with some Super 77 and then transferred those onto some cardstock. I just took two pieces of it and taped it together. It takes a little bit of jockeying things around, and then just took a pencil, traced around it. And then took my inner earpiece, did the trace there. Voila! And then I just took the cardstock and used my utility knife, cut that away. Used one side of the eyepiece there. I'm going to go ahead and make this template into one solid mask piece. So I just used that as a template, flipped it, and then drew it in, made the cuts. And I'm going to take the two pieces and just use some painter's tape I've got laying around here to fuse those two together as my mask template. And then I take my 5mm craft foam and using a silver gel writing pen just to kind of trace things out. I use the cardstock templates and just make my trace lines. Need two inner ears, of course. And then the main cowl headpiece, the outer ear portion and the forehead and the jaw strap, it's all one piece there. And a couple cleanup lines as needed. And the other side of the head. Tracing that out with the silver gel pen. Perfect. And then I'm going to take my utility knife. I'm going to angle cut the top half of the inner earpiece. And then just a straight cut on the bottom. And then this just gets a straight cut on the mask portion of the cowl. And then just taking caution to carefully cut out those eye holes there. The edges will get sanded later on, so I'm not too concerned about that. And then cutting out the main head pieces here. This just gets straight cuts all the way around. And the other side, I've got that cut out and ready to go. Now I'm taking all of my head pieces here, and the ear pieces and the mask. Actually, I'm going to start working on the V-cut on the inside of the inner earpiece so that I get a nice fold to it. Alright, that worked out good. See, now I've got a great fold as needed. Both earpieces ready to go. And then I'm going to take the eyepiece, the mask part, and I drew in. Again, I'm using my silver gel writer for the center line, and then going on either side, about a 1/4 inch width is kind of what I'm making this V-cut. On the back side of the eye mask piece, so we've got a nice fold along the bridge of the nose when it goes on there. And I'm just making a very, a shallow V-cut, really being careful not to cut all the way through. So when you're doing this, just take your time, be very cautious, very slow to get a good angle on that blade so you're not cutting all the way through it. Just a nice shallow V-cut there for a nice fold along that line. And I'm taking a few passes here, just lightly going in gradually, as you can tell here, to make sure I don't cut all the way through, and then I've got that piece curling up that I want out of there. Voila, pulling away some of that extra foam, and we get a nice fold for that mask portion of the cowl. And now I've got everything prepped here with some Barge contact cement. I went ahead and prepped the edge of the inner earpiece and the cowl earpiece and let that dry for about 15 to 20 minutes till it's got a nice matte look to the contact cement. And I pulled it away there. Luckily I didn't get it completely down, because once it's down, so you want to take care to really get that beginning set correct. I'm going to kind of go from the top here down, just getting everything kind of lined up well and pressed down in place, because this stuff works awesome and it is not going anywhere once it's set in place. So starting on one edge of the earpiece there, and then working my way around to the other side. Again, take your time in this process. Make sure you get a good firm press along the seams here as you're joining your foam pieces together. There we go. Now I just got to do the other side of the cowl, and we got those ears complete. All right, I've glued both the earpieces. Now I'm working on the center of the forehead of the cowl, just starting at one end and rolling it along the edge, and we're starting to get that nice curved shape we need at the top of the head. And I fold it around and then press together the back end. Again, I put the Barge on there, the Barge contact cement, let it set 15 to 20 minutes till matte, and then it's got a good, it's primed and ready to really tack together well. And then I've got the top piece, the crown seams of the head I'm pressing together here. Again, take your time, get everything fixed and firm. And then I'm going to be working on the ears lastly. So I'm making sure I got the forward part of the cowl, the back, and then the seams along the top all glued down and set in place first. And now what I'm doing is I'm pressing in the earpieces to where it's at a line where I like the look, and I'm using my gel pen writer to mark a line on where I'm going to put my Barge contact cement underneath when I fit everything together. Now I'm switching over to the eyepiece, the mask portion of the cowl. I'm just lining the top edges, not the bottom. So be sure not to put the Barge on the bottom, because that's just setting over your nose and cheek line there. So just the 1, 2, 3, 4 top edges of the mask. Some light application of contact cement, and then just brushing everything even. And then I'm going to let that dry fully for a good 15-20 minutes. It's starting to get a little tacky there. You want to work pretty quickly because you don't want to be spreading around as it's starting to gum up either. So I've got that taken care of. Now I'm going to put a little bit of Barge on the V-cut on the underside of the mask to just get that completely sealed, and just to permanently fix that fold along the nose bridge. And next I'm going to take and line the cowl itself, those edges that are going to receive that mask portion on there, and get it prepped with a nice thin coat of the Barge contact cement. Again, 15 to 20 minutes drying time. And then I'm just going to go from one side to the other and fix the mask portion onto the cowl. Just pressing those seams in firmly for a nice tight seal. And then I'm going to be working on the earpieces, and I primed the inner edges and that marked line underneath that line with Barge, let it cure, and now I'm just carefully pushing in the inner earpiece and then sliding it into the cowl, and then fitting those contact cement areas in. So just kind of take caution on this so they don't touch too much until you're ready to go and you have those edges lined up. And then I'm just kind of working my way around and firmly pressing it into the cowl to get a good fixed seal on the earpieces. And then get the other side. See, I'm pushing it in a little bit and working it down through there. It's a little precarious, but it works. And then I just press those edges together for a good tack. And it's okay if you have a little Barge that went past it, it'll dry, and it'll be covered up in the next process. Alright, so I got the earpieces in. I'm going to take my utility knife and go on the inside and cut away some of that excess foam I ended up having when I angled those ears inward, and then I just had some extra foam there. Chances are this is going to happen if you work on a cowl build this way, and I just cut that away. And now I'm using my Dremel drum sander to just round off the edges around the eyes and some other portions of the cowl, especially the eyes on the mask there, and then just hand sanding with some medium to fine grit sandpaper to get a really smooth radiused edge around the eyes there. Alright, so I've finished sanding the eye portion. Now I put it back on the mannequin head. I'm going to hit it with some heat on the heat gun just to let everything really kind of loosen up and set in and make everything just a bit pliable. This is your chance to heat up the barge too if you need to, and press in some of those any separated seams, and then really smooth things out and get a more of a shape, a curved shape, and really mold it to the head. You can see it's getting a nice rounded look, and it's setting in those earpieces really nice. A little more heat on the back there, and press the seams together and really sculpt it better back there. Alright. And now I've got some barge on the back of the neck piece, and I added just about a 1/4 inch width of just a piece of foam to reinforce the neck so the seams didn't split when you take it off and put it back on. So I'm just doing that. Now I'm going ahead with some DAP silicone caulking and just filling in all of the seams, any seam on the cowl here where things are fitted together, to just smooth it out and basically give it that nice seamless look. This is a great way to fill in all of those areas and imperfections to really get a nice seamless flow to the cowl. Then I'm taking some just a wet down paper towel and wiping off all the excess. And while it's wet, you can use your finger to kind of smooth it in, and maybe even get a little bit more and dab it in areas you missed, and then just continue smoothing it out, wiping off all the excess caulking. So that's just all that's left is the seams filled up with a nice smooth bit of the caulking. And then I'm taking some Modge Podge and just lightly giving it just a single top coat. This seems to just give it more of a uniform feel and fill in any more imperfections, and also provides a really good surface for the Plasti-Dip coat that I'm going to be putting on next. And here it is with 2 coats of Plasti-Dip, the matte black rubber coat Plasti-Dip, which gives it a really cool leather look. Really pleased with the way that turned out, and it also allows for some more shrinkage and pressing in and sealing on the Batgirl cowl. And the finishing touch is the elastic strap at the base of the chin to finish things off. I've got about I believe a 1.5 inch width elastic strap, and I am just putting a bead of hot glue, a generous portion, because then that gives a nice firm fix to it. You know, there's it's kind of a stress point, so you want it to really stay. So I put a few rows of the hot glue and fix one end. I anchor one side to one end of the jaw, and then I cut this elastic strap a little longer than needed, just so I can measure to the other side of the cowl, so I get just a nice fit. And then I cut off the excess once I've because I want it to bounce back. When I have it on my daughter's head, I want it to spring back and have a nice fitted, just a nice fit, gloved fit to the face and the head when it's put on. So I'm just kind of gauging where it's going to expand and then shrink back down, and then cut off the excess and then hot glue that piece in place. So I found my the length I want it to be at. I'm just going to take some scissors and cut off that excess. And then you just take a lighter, and then I'm going to heat up the edge of the nylon. That melts the edge so it doesn't fray and just really seals that in place. Just a little bit of heat there, maybe a light bit of smoke there, and let that cool, and that's ready to go. Take my hot glue gun, and then I'm going to put a generous portion of the hot glue onto the other side of the cowl. And then just firmly press the chin strap in place, and just kind of let it completely cool and fix to that side. And we should be good to go. And there is the final product, everybody, the Batgirl cowl. Alright, so I used my Inkscape software, and I found an image online of the Batgirl 2014 suit that I wanted, then used the emblem on her jacket to do a vector trace of that emblem, and created the template I needed to make that out of foam for the Batgirl costume. Then I took that template I created and printed it out on some cardstock, and then just laid that out on some thin yellow EVA foam, and using my utility knife, just cut out the EVA foam emblem that's going to be going on the jacket of the costume. I'm going to work on the next part of the Batgirl costume. I've got these extra long satin gloves off of Amazon. You can get the shorter ones too, the superhero ones, but those ones weren't going to come in time. In fact, I think these are better quality than the other ones. So what I'm doing now is I just put this on my daughter's hand, and then marked, mid forearm on her, some painter's tape here, and I'm going to I went half an inch out because I'm going to hem these, give it a 1/4 inch hem. So I marked that out for a hem, and I'm going to just kind of line this one up with it and make an even cut, and hem those up to get set for prepping the gloves. Okay, I didn't have any yellow thread, and in fact, the stretch material is pretty good about just staying like it is without fraying, so I'm just gonna leave it just fresh cut there on the end for now, because time's a-wasting and 31st is coming up. I'm going to use this filler that came inside the glove as a template to make the little fins on the side of the gloves. So I'm just going to kind of lay it out here and size it up using a picture for reference, and then just kind of sketch those in. I'm going to use this as a template because I'm going to make those out of yellow EVA foam, and I'm going to take out part of the seam on the side, and then from the inside I'm going to hot glue those and then have those fins coming out. Okay, so now using my new made template, just using my cutting tools, utility knife, rotary cutter to cut out the fins. And then I am also creating a base. I'm going to use the fins and probably take it out a 1/4 inch longer than the fins themselves. And then line everything up, draw a center line down the middle. And I'm going to make that cut a little shallower on the fins, just for the thickness of the foam base, basically. And then pressing everything into place. I'll go ahead and create a second set of those while I'm at it. I'm going to go ahead and press fit the fins in place. I'm going to use my hot glue gun, basically to just weld along the seams with it and fix it to the base there. I'm going to go ahead and do this on both sides. Then I'm going to start the process of attaching the fins to the glove. And so I'm going ahead and just kind of getting a general idea of where to place the fins on the outer edge of the glove. Make sure they're on the outer forearm seam, not the inner. On the seam furthest away from the thumb. Turn it inside out. I'm going to take my seam ripper and then start at the top, and I'm going to be opening up the seam here where the fins are going to be protruding through. Alright, now I've got the seams open up here. And then this is a part to remember, a little tricky here. Make sure you put the fins inside the seam. Remember this glove is flipped inside out, so you want the fins to be on the outside. So you slide those in, get everything lined up, and then I'm going to hot glue each side of the base onto the glove. Putting a nice bead of hot glue there. And then firmly pressing that into place. And doing the same thing on the flip side. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue, make sure I got all my corners glued down, and then any little seams I might have opened up too long, I can just kind of press those together with a bit of hot glue as well. And then I'm going to put a bead of hot glue along the seam here for some reinforcement. Because what I've got planned here is I've got another strip of foam that I'm just going to place over the top of this hot glue, which adds a bit more rigidity. So when it's worn, then it basically makes for a stiffener for the fins, so they're really rigid along the forearm and have a nice tight fit, and they're not flopping around. This does the trick. Got a little open space here, and so I've got a little square I cut off just to fill in that gap too. And then taking it all and flipping it right side out again. And let's see here, just jockeying it around. Take care that you don't tear the foam if you're making one of these. And voila! We've got ourselves a Batgirl glove. Okay, so now I'm going to start working on the Batgirl belt to the costume. And basically what I did is I went to the fabric store and got the roll of the 2-inch soft elastic banding, and then I just measured it around my daughter's waist, and just, you know, I pulled it through to leave enough overlap to do the hemming, and then pulled it to where it was nice and snug, and then marked that, and then all I did was just loop it through, use my sewing machine on a stretch stitch, and just stitched it closed here and here, and it's ready to go. So now what I'm going to be doing next is taking some of this 2mm craft foam. I'm just going to cut some strips of it and hot glue a strip of it here, well, basically a strip of it here, a strip of it here, and then a strip along the back of it here. So those separations will kind of look like belt loops of yellow, and then I'm just going for the simple Barbara Gordon Batgirl look. So then I'm just going to cut out a EVA foam circle and hot glue it to the buckle right here for the belt. So I'm going to do that next. Okay, so I've got the circle glued in place on the buckle. The next plan is to glue three yellow strips of the EVA foam to serve as the remainder of the yellow belt. And I've separated into 3 panels so that it basically creates the belt loop look, but also not only the belt loop, but that serves as a nice flex point, because if you had a straight band across the whole thing, you wouldn't get any stretch. So there has to be separations there for that stretch when you're wearing the belt. So gluing on that final panel, and we've got ourselves a Batgirl belt. Alright everybody, hope you enjoyed watching that tutorial on how you can make your very own classic Batgirl costume. If you haven't subscribed to our channel already, just click the icon below. You'll help us create more cool content for your enjoyment and inspiration. And be sure and tune in next time when we show you how you can make your very own classic Iron Fist costume. I'm Jonathan, and this is Geek of All Trades.